Do you think if I put on my resume, natural leader with 10 plus years of experience in fast-paced and ever-changing roles and environments, employers would know I was referring to being a DM? With how the job market is going, couldn't hurt. Now, while that description might be a little exaggerative, it is pretty accurate to the fact that I've been role-playing and leading roleplays for over a decade now, getting my start all the way back with illegal Minecraft servers on my iPod. And with that decade plus of experience, I feel like I can speak to how people, and more importantly you, can get started with role-playing. Hello, my name is Parker, and this is Fandom Flipside, where we talk about the weird, quirky, and mostly fun side of fandoms. And today, we'll be talking about how you, yes you, can start role-playing with actual human beings. So sit back, strap in, and try to relax because I'm a nerd with some thoughts. I've had this video concept in the back of my mind for quite a while now. Since my first video actually, where I talked about why role-playing with character AI and chatbots in general was so bad, and a commenter, I think named Lee, actually made a comment saying maybe I should make a video on how to roleplay with humans instead. So shout out to them. Still, the reason why I didn't make a video until now about how to get into role-playing is because it's kind of a unique experience for everyone. And my situation was, I just kind of fell into it when I was a kid. But after taking some time to think and coming back to the script over and over again, I think I can finally break it down by first explaining what role-playing actually is and then exploring the top 3 most well-known options. Now, I want to make it clear before we jump into this video, I will not be discussing character AI or other AI roleplay options at all. One, I've already talked about it before, and I've made my thoughts and opinions quite clear. 2, I really want to focus with this video on the human side of role-playing, which was here long before character AI and will be here long after. So with that out of the way, let's dive into what role-playing actually is. Roleplay is defined as the conscious or unconscious acting out of a character or persona, involving a shift in behavior to simulate a specific role, scenario, or persona. Everyone has done this before. Yeah, remember that one time you were a kid on the playground and you were playing as a cool intergalactic space pirate who was actually trying to save the pretty princess from intergalactic shark alien creature beast, and you ended up exploding them with your psionic mind powers? That's role-playing. When you role-play, you can be and do whatever you want. Your imagination is truly the limit. Role-playing provides what I would describe as a healthy form of escapism. And when done with the right people, it actually allows you to develop your communication skills, your problem-solving skills, and even allows you to explore difficult topics and themes in a safe environment. There are 3 main types of role-playing that we'll be discussing in this video: tabletop role-playing games, or TTRPGs, chat or text-based role-playing, which is not AI, and live-action role-playing, or LARPing for short. For each type, I'll give you a basic rundown of what they are, list out their pros and cons of each, and then also give you my personal thoughts. Hopefully when I'm done, you can get a good grasp of what type is best for you, and then start role-playing with real human people as soon as today. So, let's get started. I feel like the most well-known form of role-playing, thanks in part to Stranger Things, is tabletop role-playing games, or TTRPGs. TTRPGs are the types of role-play that rely on you describing the actions that your character takes aloud, and then determining if those actions succeed or failed based on predetermined rules, usually involving the roll of dice. The role-play is facilitated by a special player who acts as the game master, or the GM. The GM is in charge of describing the world and its inhabitants, while also being in charge of the overarching story of the roleplay. The other players play as PCs, or player characters, who are basically interacting with the world that the GM has created. The role-playing takes place over the course of a session, with the characters and players interacting with each other in real time. The amount of sessions is determined by the length of the story. For a shorter story or a one-shot, it might only take one session, but for a longer overarching story, it can take many, resulting in a years-long affair. Now for the pros of TTRPGs, I think the first one I want to discuss is the fact that they have a pretty well-defined structure and also provide predetermined rules that players can play off of. While the rules may be a lot, which we will be discussing in a little bit, they can also really help to facilitate the roleplay and make everything a little bit more even. Another pro of TTRPGs is the fact that they can introduce a lot more randomness and chance. Since a really high or low dice roll at a critical moment in the story can completely alter the direction of where you're headed. Even for the game master, nothing is really set in stone because even the player characters can completely fuck up your story by making weird or crazy decisions that you hadn't even thought of before. Now, my final pro for TTRPGs is the fact that they're the most recognizable. And so because of that, I feel like they're the easiest for you to find a group of people who would be willing or interested in playing with you. I can't tell you how many times I've been invited to and joined a D&D group full of strangers and ended up making lifelong friends. Now, on to the cons. Now, my first con might be a little controversial, but I personally think that while the rules and dice can absolutely help to facilitate a roleplay and make sure that everything is fair and even across the board, I also feel like it can lead to really cool player character moments and story beats never coming to fruition, all because the dice weren't on your side that day. While this can make the game very entertaining, it can also make it very, very frustrating. Even more so when your GM or another player are sticklers to the rules, to the point where your imagination can't run free. To help with this con, I've seen some tables introduce the rule of cool, which is the idea that if something is really, really cool, then the rules can bend a little bit just to make sure that it happens. Also, not all TTRPGs are built the same, so you can always shop around and figure out which rule set that you like to play with best. And you can even homebrew a few rules to go alongside it. Which brings me to my next con, TTRPGs can be a little bit overwhelming to get into. As I mentioned earlier, there are various different gameplay systems for TTRPGs that all have their own little quirks, and trying to learn each and every one of them is hard. For veterans, the rules often feel second nature, but for new players, they can be very, very overwhelming and incredibly frustrating to learn. And if you have a rule stickler breathing down your neck at all times while you're playing the game, it can be incredibly frustrating and completely ruin the experience. My final con is that TTRPG campaigns don't often come to fruition. Over the past decade of playing TTRPGs, I've only had one campaign that actually came to the end of its story. All the other ones ended because of scheduling issues, people growing apart, or interpersonal drama between players. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible to have a long-form TTRPG campaign. I'm just saying it's kind of hard. Still, if you are able to play through an entire campaign, it is probably one of the most satisfying storytelling experiences in the entire world. And yes, you will cry at the end. Overall, I think TTRPG games are a really good choice if you're looking for a more structured form of role-playing. And if you can get in with a good group, the dice rolls feel a little bit less daunting and more addicting. It's like gambling. But instead of money, it's with the lives of fictional characters. If you want to get into TTRPGs but don't know where/how, I recommend going to your local game store and seeing if there's a game going on that needs an extra player. You can also check out sites like Start Playing and Roll20 to find groups looking for more players online. I will say Start Playing does include a $5 minimum per session, but all of their GMs are highly rated and vetted. So it could be worth it if you're a new player just starting out. I'm sure there are plenty of other places that you can check out to find TTRPG games, and if you happen to know any, then please drop it down in the comments down below. Okay, now that we've talked about TTRPGs, let's get into my bread and butter, chat-based roleplays. Chat-based or text-based RPs are probably my favorite type of role-playing, and the type that I'm most familiar with. The name is pretty self-explanatory. They take place inside of a chat, where people type out what their character's actions and reactions are to other things that people have written. It's like writing a story with other people, except it's usually done in real time. And when you see their icon pop up with a reply, it can either make your day or fuck up your week in the best possible way. Typically for chat-based RPs, each person or RPer has an OC or original character that they play as. There really are no set hard rules for chat-based roleplays. Just some general guidelines, such as don't make your character the sole main character of the story, don't make your character way too overpowered, and then don't take over another person's character without their consent. There's also really no specified game master either. I mean, usually there is one RPer who is kind of pushing the main story a little bit more than the others, but overall, it's kind of a bit more collaborative in nature. For my first pro of chat-based RPs, they can be done from pretty much anywhere at any time. Since this is a roleplay that is chat-based in nature, as long as you have a server, Wi-Fi, and a spare moment to reply, you can basically be a part of the roleplay from pretty much anywhere. Hell, for the past 5 years, I've been part of a very in-depth Marvel roleplay, and half of our RPers are actually from Europe. So not even time zones really matter. This makes it relatively easy for people to get involved and stay involved. For my next pro, as I mentioned earlier, chat-based RPs are a little bit simpler rule-wise. And because of that, your imagination is truly the limit. You're not bound by dice or complex rules, and as long as you can realistically explain your character's actions, you can pretty much do about anything. Now that being said, part of the fun of chat-based RPs is making a story together. So if you make your character extremely overpowered and never lose a fight, your story is gonna be boring. I personally love putting my OCs through hell and back because the story arc that happens from losing rather than winning is just so good. Now onto the cons, the first of which is the fact that, at least to me, it feels a little bit hard and awkward to get into chat-based role-playing. Sure, there's different sites you can use, such as rpgdirectory.com or fanfiction.net forums, but those sites can be very overwhelming to navigate, with people making entire web pages of their rules, stories, guidelines for the specific RP that you have to read through before you can even start role-playing. You also often have to make a character sheet and apply to be a part of these RPs, meaning there's a chance that if you're a new role player who has no idea what you're doing, you could be rejected multiple times before you're even given a shot. Another con to chat-based RPs that I think is very important to talk about is that depending on the site you go on, there are a lot of instances of pedophilia and grooming. Some sites do a better job than others monitoring this, but like with everywhere on the internet, you are going to get bad people doing bad things and no one doing anything about it. And my advice, if you are under the age of 18 and watching this video interested in getting into role-playing, this is not the type for you. Trust me, as someone who got into chat-based role-playing underage, the amount of disgusting messages I had to read and reply to from people who were supposed to be adults was just not okay. Sure, there were a few adults who were genuinely really cool and made sure that I wasn't exposed to anything too explicit, but there were also a few that definitely took things way too far just because of my age. And at the time, I thought it was fine because it was a little bit normalized, but looking back on it as a 22-year-old person, the things that were done and said were not okay. And I personally think of myself as one of the lucky ones, because I've heard plenty of far worse horror stories of adults interacting with minors in very not safe for work ways. If you are under the age of 18 and are already chat RPing, my best advice is to be very, very careful. If someone, even your own age, says something that makes you uncomfortable, do not dismiss it and do not normalize it. And please tell someone in your real life, whether that be a parent, a trusted friend, a teacher, just tell someone. Overall, my thoughts on chat-based RPing are that for people over the age of 18, it can be a really great place to get started with role-playing, especially with its relaxed rules and ability to reply from anywhere. But once again, I think it should be a roleplay type that is limited to 18 plus just because the internet is the fucking internet. Okay, now on to our final roleplay type, live action roleplay. Just as a heads up, this is actually later in the day. I got a call from my mom asking if she wanted to get lunch, and so I went to get lunch with her, and then that ended up with me going to see my brother, so this is 4 hours later than when I originally filmed. But we're just gonna roll with it. The camera placement is a little different, and the lighting is a little bit different, but same content. Okay, let's see if I can get back into the mindset. Live action role-playing, or LARPing, is probably the roleplay type that I actually have the least personal connection with, but not for a lack of trying. For LARPing, players act out their characters' actions in real time, usually involving decorated sets, extravagant costumes, and a whole lot of improv. Now, LARPing isn't just going to the Ren Fair in costume, it's usually a lot more serious than that, with people renting out entire venues and selling exclusive weekend tickets that you can buy and then go to the event in character. And everyone else is also in character. Because I don't know as much about LARPing, a lot of my pros and cons are going to be based off of the content online that I found about it. So if you're an active LARPer, then I would truly appreciate if you gave more context in the comments down below. For my first pro with LARPing, it's a very in-depth and in-person style of roleplay. You are not just creating a character, you literally become the character. Acting out real-life battles and fights and character moments, all in person with other people. I also feel another pro along those same lines is that because these LARPs take place in person, they come with an automatic third space for you to meet new people. For my introverts out there, this probably sounds a little bit like hell, but for extroverts kind of like me, this is the greatest experience ever because 1, you get to talk and meet new nerds, and 2, you also get to act out really cool scenes. For the cons, I think the biggest one that comes to mind is the cost to play. The intricate costumes that people make for these LARPing events can cost hundreds to even thousands of dollars to make. And sure, there are plenty of tutorials online giving you examples of how you can make your own clothing and accessories, but still, if you want to jump right in and get going, it's gonna cost you a little bit of coin. Now, a tip I've heard and generally follow is you try to spread out the cost of building out your costume as much as possible, usually by buying one big thing per event. For example, each time I go to the Ren Fair, which is usually yearly, I set myself to a limit of one big item. Last year, it was this super sick vest that I got for my pirate costume, and this year it'll likely be a hat and a pair of pants. Maybe boots if I'm feeling like a real big spender. Building a costume this way though takes time, and while it's very satisfying when finally everything comes together, it can also feel like you're always missing another piece. And when starting out, you can feel kind of bad when comparing your costume to other people who have been doing this for years. I also don't know if this is really a con or not, but with the costumes in mind, you also have to find a place to store all of those pieces, and the more pieces that you have, the harder it's going to be to find that storage space. My next big con for LARPing, and is pretty much the main reason why I haven't done it yet, is it is very geographically dependent. So it might not even be available near you. For the past 3 years, I have been desperately wanting to LARP, but it has been impossible to find groups on Facebook that are less than 3 hours away from me. I also can't even tell if these groups are active or not because they're private on Facebook, so I don't even know if they really exist anymore. This might just be a me problem since I live in the middle of the country, but I feel like if you're not near a big city or in a well-established LARPing community, then it's gonna be really hard for you to find events to go to. And sure, you could always start your own LARPing group, and you totally should if that's something you're really interested in. But for new players who just want to get a touch and a feel of what the community is actually like, that can be a bit overwhelming challenging and a little bit hard to do. Overall, I would love to get involved with LARPing, but I feel like it's something that I'm not going to be able to do until I move. Which sucks for me, but is probably good for my wallet. If you're able to LARP though, then I say do it. You'll get to meet a lot of really cool people. And while sure, there are a couple of assholes, a lot of the LARPers that I've met or seen around are super nice and genuinely interested in helping new people learn the craft. This can also be a really good hobby if you're already a crafty individual and like making things, because once again, intricate costumes. I hope that by explaining what roleplay actually is and breaking down the 3 types, I've given you a general idea of which type might be best for you. Roleplaying with real people is absolutely worth it and can be such a satisfying experience when you're building an entire world and story together. Because you not only get everyone's ideas, but you also get everyone's lived experiences, creating something wholly unique and totally original that no one else could possibly dream of. And while ChatGPT likes to pretend to be human, it can never really match our creativity, our imagination, and our ability to connect with others via stories. Okay, if you guys enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, and if you'd like to see more content like it, then what are you doing? Go subscribe. Also, what are your thoughts on role-playing? Have you done it? Are you interested in doing it? If so, what type? Also, is there any form of roleplay that I missed? If so, then please let me know in the comments down below. Also, I just wanted to give you guys a quick thank you for all of the love on my recent video. I really did not expect that one to blow up at all, and it was so cool to just see how many people it reached and to read all of the comments. I really love the little community that we're building here, and I hope you guys do as well. So, thank you. Okay, I've got to go work on planning the next Thirsty Sword Lesbian session for my friends and I. As always, I'm Parker, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye! Also, I have been wearing a Come and Go hoodie this entire time, and I can't take credit for it. It's actually my fiance's Come and Go hoodie, but she's at work right now. She's actually just about to get home, so I probably should take this off. But she doesn't usually let me steal her hoodies because I will take them for long periods of time, but she was at work today, so I could steal the hoodie. And she's not gonna know about this until I post this video, which is gonna be, I think, tomorrow or Friday. We'll figure that out. Anyways, so I have like a solid 24 hours before I'm in trouble. So yeah, just a little fun fact. Anyways, bye!